Welcome back everyone to part 3 of our 2022 adventure. Today you stumbled across us camping by the Turon River down behind Capertee in New South Wales. Over the last 2 days we've toured right through the Lithgow region. We started off at the Lost City, made our way through the Gardens of Stone National Park up the Bicentennial Trail into Capertee and now down into the Turon National Park. It's been an epic couple of days off-road so far in this series, so make sure if you're not caught up already that you do so at some point so you don't miss any of the action. Today marks only day 3 of this epic adventure, and this section of the trip will have us following the Turon River for at least the next couple of days. This region has extensive four-wheel driving, camping and history to it, and a lot more time could be spent exploring the Turon region than we will be in this trip. We'll just be heading to a couple of the many amazing destinations along this river that can be found. Last night we managed to snag an all-time campsite literally right next to the river. We were hoping to keep up this trend over the next couple of days. Now let's catch up with Ryan and the boys fresh at the start of day 3. Oh, good morning guys. Here we are, still in this beautiful spot down by the Turon River. We didn't float away. Absolutely beautiful spot, just pristine this time of day in the morning. Early morning, you get to see the shine on the river. Just absolutely beautiful. The water is actually quite nice as well. Yesterday Jake went and had a swim down here, and that's just the benefit of these little riverside spots here. So today we're just going to be cooking up some breakfast here in this spot, and then we'll probably get a move on and head down towards Sunny Corner ways. There's 2 possible ways that we can do that today, and we have not decided. So first option is down Upper Turon Road, which I know very well, and second option, there seems to be a track from Woolshed Flat Campground down that way. So I guess we'll figure it out, but we best get breakfast on because everyone is pretty hungry. Much of the area throughout the Turon National Park has origins that can trace back to the days of the Gold Rush era, a gripping and interesting time in Australian history. There are some visible areas where prospecting was prominent all throughout this region. There's even an old shaft that's fenced off at the Diggins campground. There are 2 marked campgrounds in the Turon National Park. There's Woolshed Flat and the Diggins, which is where we're camped near today. Both offer nice open space and an incredible atmosphere. Both of these campgrounds in the National Park require a minimum of 1 river crossing to access, the Diggins even taking as many as 3 crossings of the Turon to access. The trek into the National Park is fairly moderate besides these river crossings. There were plenty of non-equipped 4-wheel drives around and even some camper trailers that had braved it through the river. Well, the plan for today was to continue touring along the Turon. We would head out of the National Park and down towards Sunny Corner, followed by a quick resupply in Bathurst, and then we would attempt to tackle the Root Hog Crossing track, making our way up towards Hill End via the Bridle Track at the end of the day. We had another camp somewhere along the Turon planned for tonight. With a few spots in mind, it would all depend on how much we got done today as to where we would camp. But believe me, we were happy with anything as we were in no rush. Well, here we are, all packed up, ready to hit the road for another big day ahead. I'm not sure if today will bring as much 4-wheel driving as yesterday. Today might be just a little more leisurely, dirt road, a little bit of tarmac stuff. So excited to have a little bit of an easier day. However, this afternoon we will be hitting another track. So yeah, fingers crossed to see how that goes. I don't think we'll get anything harder than what we did yesterday. Or at least I hope not, because that was a little bit challenging there. Anyway, we're all excited to hit the road, so let's do that. For this next section of trip, we will be heading back up the top out of the Turon National Park, the same way that we came in. There was another option within the Turon National Park called the Pinnacle Fire Trail that would have taken us down into Sunny Corner also, although the conditions of that track are supposedly difficult, and after yesterday, we were happy to leave the difficult obstacles behind us. Once we reached the top, we would be airing up and then heading down Upper Turon Road, through Turon Gates and down towards Palmerzoki. From here, we would continue further down south and eventually meet tarmac again somewhere near Sunny Corner. From Sunny Corner, we will be making our way into Bathurst for fuel, and then onto the Root Hog Crossing to finish off the afternoon, hopefully ending up camped somewhere near Hill End. We thoroughly enjoyed our time down in the Turon National Park. Even though there were some people around, it's one of the more quiet places in the general area. Not a lot of people venture through this way, and they are absolutely missing out. There's some awesome camping all through here, and not to mention the incredible atmosphere not found anywhere else. So, day 3. Today we are heading out of the Turon National Park and heading down towards the Sunny Corner area. There are two ways that we could have done this today. We could have gone down Woolshed Flatway and then headed down there through a few tracks and ended up somewhere in Sunny Corner. I don't know that way, so today we've chosen to go down Upper Turon Road, which is just an absolutely beautiful drive down through there, down through Turon Gates and stuff like that. Really good fun heading down through there. Nothing too challenging, just a lot of nice scenery, which is what we're after for today. Then we'll head into Bathurst and probably refuel. Then we'll be heading up an alternative way into Hill End. So as you guys know, the Bridle Track has not been fully open for many years now, and due to the rock slide that closed the track back in 2008 or something like that. So we're going to be taking an alternative route called the Root Hog Crossing to get into Hill End, and then we'll camp somewhere around there. Never done the Root Hog Track. Those who have watched a couple of Bridle Track episodes know that I have been down the Bridle Track to an extent. So really excited to head back down that way. Hopefully we get another really nice camp like the one that we had tonight. Last night's camp was just absolutely spectacular. Everyone was so happy with it, and so fingers crossed we can keep up the good track record. Anyway, now we're on the road heading out of the Turon National Park. Let's get excited. So we made it up out of the Turon National Park. Absolutely beautiful national park down in there. Absolutely recommend it to anyone looking in the area. It was probably our best spot so far. Right now up the top here, we're just going to be putting a little bit of air back in the tyres. So we've been on 25 psi since we started the trip over in Nunes, and now we're coming out of the harder tracks for the time being. So we're going to pump our tyres back up, and then the next time we encounter a track, which will probably be the Root Hog track, I'll probably just drop them back down to 25 again. But so there's no real need to have them that low for now, so we're going to pump them back up and then be on our merry way. Upper Turon Road was just your standard dirt road. It was nice and firm with no washouts, and so there was no need for us to have the tyres all the way down anymore. We were all looking forward to a nice peaceful drive to start off the day. The scenery along this road is stunning, with rolling hills for miles. Heading along the Upper Turon Road, you can see evidence of extensive gold prospecting throughout the area. In some areas, old diversion tunnels can be seen that would have been used during the gold rushes to divert water out of the river, making it easier to access potentially profitable gold-bearing river gravel. There is plenty of interesting history to see in this area. Days could be spent exploring and looking at all of the finer details. I personally love this entire region, and I've spent a lot of my time exploring around here. Every time I venture here, I learn something new or discover something that I haven't seen before. The area is just rattling with history and absolutely spectacular views. Partway along the Upper Turon Road, you'll begin to descend down and eventually come through a place called Turon Gates. Now, Turon Gates is a spectacular private retreat that occupies around 6,000 acres of this pristine mountain river country. It's an excellent spot to camp, although does require pre-booking. Camping isn't the only thing that Turon Gates offers, however. There's log cabins on site that are nestled right down by the river, giving all those that stay here an authentic bush camping experience. Turon Gates has also been featured on popular travel TV channels as an all-time favourite destination. And although never having camped here myself, it's an absolutely tranquil place to travel through, and it's definitely on my bucket list. Well, as we reach the river crossing at Turon Gates, it then takes us through the privately owned retreat and past some of the cabins nestled in the bush, a truly beautiful place. This also marks around 1/4 of the track to Sunny Corner completed. It's really not hard to tell why this drive down Upper Turon is one of my favourites. Nice and leisurely, and the scenery is just absolutely stunning. It's so beautiful out here. I just can't get over it. Every time I drive down this road, it's hard to keep your eyes on the road because you're too busy looking off at all the beautiful scenery around you. Now along this road there are two possible ways that we could have gone. Straight into Sofala via a turnoff that's not far away. This way has camping along the route closer to the Sofala village. You can also see the Lucky Point tunnel on this route, which is part of the many previously mentioned diversion tunnels that were built during the gold rush. This tunnel was built in the 1860s as one of the many attempts to lower the water level around the village of Sofala. It's amazing to think that all of that work would have been done with chisels and muscle power. This section, if you choose to visit it, is said to be one of the more profitable sections of the Turon. Hence the large amount of work and settlement done around Sofala. We, however, would be continuing down south into Sunny Corner, and on this section of the road there is not really that much camping available. In fact, there's no camping available on the direct route, unless you go into Sunny Corner State Forest or Winburndale Nature Reserve. We still had around 30 kilometres to travel at this point, but the driving was fairly easy going, and the scenery was just amazing. So notice just here on this Upper Turon Road, if you follow this track, it will take you out towards Sofala. We're not going to be doing that. We're going to be going straight, and that will take you out near Sunny Corner, and that's exactly where we want to be. But just thought I'd let you guys know, coming along here, there is a turn off that takes you through to Sofala, and it's pretty cool, nice scenery through there, but we'll be heading down to Sunny Corner instead. Well, now we had reached just after the halfway point in our trek to Sunny Corner, passing the Sofala turnoff and closing in on the locality of Palmer's Oakey. From there, it was a pretty straightforward drive down into Sunny Corner. Palmer's Oakey is a small locality that was settled in the 1850s by the Lawsons, but it was previously scouted by the Cox family over 40 years earlier. Some small structures were built here, but there is no township. Once passing through Palmer's Oakey, the road widens and it's almost like driving down a normal tarmac road. It's really hard to be disappointed with the scenery on this drive. Staying concentrated on the road is difficult enough with rolling hills surrounding you for miles. You just want to keep looking out the window. Now, we've been really lucky so far with the weather. We hadn't seen a single drop of rain so far since we began this adventure now 3 days ago, and safe to say we all had our fingers crossed that the weather would stay the same for the remainder of the trip, although only time would tell. So I've dialed the Power Plus throttle controller back up to the normal setting that I use it on, which is their 1.9 setting. That's just a little bit above normal, and it gives it the perfect throttle response for on-road driving. Not too powerful, not too weak, it's just right for me. Since doing that as well, I've noticed the fuel consumption drop dramatically. So all throughout all the four-wheel driving that we were doing, I had the car on the normal throttle response setting, and you can absolutely feel the difference. Closing in on the southern part of the road, we just could not help but gaze at the amazing scenery of this drive. This trip, even though not containing any serious off-roading, is an awesome adventure. What may seem like a simple dirt road to some actually has a great purpose and nice history to it. Most people would certainly just drive past the turnoff for this road and continue on the highway. Well, if it wasn't clear before, it certainly is now on what they are missing out on. Pushing on closer to the tarmac, you need to head through a couple of private properties via some cattle grates. We actually weren't expecting to see any livestock on the road, as usually the roads that run through private property are usually gated when they contain livestock. This time, there were no gates in sight. Although, to my surprise, in one section, we were actually greeted to a bit of peak hour traffic on the road. Seeing this herd of cattle on the road was cool and a real reminder that we were out in the country, and many country roads like this one actually do swerve and go through people's property. It's so important when this does happen to be respectful and remain on the road at all times, as only the road is publicly owned. Everything else around it is owned by somebody else. It's really important to be sensible around livestock as well, as one mistake and someone's livelihood could be impacted. Well, it wasn't long after our little livestock encounter that we were back on the tarmac and steaming straight towards Sunny Corner. The scenery throughout this region is quite unique, as Sunny Corner and Dark Corner are large radiata pine forests and are still actively logged today. Some sections are fully grown and others just mere saplings, so different to the rolling hills and silvertop ash just a mere 10 kilometres earlier. There is a large amount of free camping available in Sunny Corner State Forest. Although not having explored it a lot personally, it is a very active and popular spot. Sunny Corner State Forest also gives into Winbondale Nature Reserve, which is another beautiful area in which spectacular views and free camping can be found. So we made it down Upper Turon Road into the Dark Corner region, and it's just what a beautiful drive Upper Turon Road is. It's just such a nice scenic drive through there, nothing too challenging at all. You can do it in pretty much any vehicle. So now we're back onto the tarmac in Dark Corner. Dark Corner is another really beautiful area as well. The tall pine trees throughout Dark Corner and Sunny Corner give it that real foresty vibe. It's really cool through here. Anyway, we're not too far from Bathurst now, where we'll grab fuel and then we'll be heading back out into the hill end area. From Sunny Corner, it didn't take us long to trek into Bathurst and get fuel. Bathurst is one of the major towns in the area and was a pivotal part of the Gold Rush era. Bathurst is a historical town, but unlike some of its Gold Rush era counterparts such as Hill End, Bathurst is still settled today with a population of around 40,000 people. It's a popular tourist town and has all of the major convenience of any larger town in New South Wales, such as shops, schools and universities, although it is a central hub for a ton of camping and adventure in the surrounding areas. We're going to be taking one of these adventure-seeking routes this afternoon, attempting to cross the Turon River at the Root Hog Crossing, which is an alternative route to the Bridle Track. Now, many years ago, there was a large rock slide that closed the Bridle Track, marking it uncrossable, and still to this day, the road is blocked. So there's no way to get from Bathurst to Hill End via the Bridle Track. That was, of course, until the Root Hog Crossing was formed, a crossing of one of the most deep sections of the Turon River. Now, the Root Hog track links back up to the Bridle Track, making it possible to get into the village of Hill End via the famous track once again, completely bypassing the rockfall. But this crossing, as we would find out, was not for the faint-hearted. So, fully fueled up and stocked up now and heading out of Bathurst. We're heading back up in the general direction towards Hill End. So, we're going to be taking the alternative route, the Root Hog Crossing from Bathurst to Hill End. So of course, as I said earlier, the Bridle Track is no longer fully open the whole way up, so we have to find another way around, and this is apparently the way to go. So I've never been up this way before. I've been down the Bridle Track from the opposite side, from Hill End side, a few times. It's a great little track. I'm really looking forward to it. So fingers crossed that everything goes smoothly here, and then we'll be hopefully finding a camp in the Hill End region somewhere. Don't have an exact location, but I'm really excited. So let's see what the rest of the day brings. This region is so beautiful through here. It's just one of those parts of the world that you just have to come and see. Rolling hills for miles and miles and miles. You never get sick of the views coming through here. Is absolutely spectacular, all the way through from Orange, Bathurst, Mudgee, all around this whole area. It's absolutely stunning. So here we are at the start of the Root Hog Track, a nice little drive out of Bathurst, and now just hit the dirt and now on the start of this track. So I have never been down here before, but supposedly this track links back onto the Bridle Track and will take us up into Hill End. Now, I don't know whether or not this track connects after the rock slide or not. I guess we'll find out, but fingers crossed everything goes smoothly in that department. I'm sure it will. Anyway, we're all really excited to head down here. I'm just expecting sort of Bridle Track similar type of terrain as it is in that region, and nothing like we were doing in Lithgow. That's yeah, I'm glad that's behind us now. So fingers crossed everything goes smoothly on this track in, and we can find a beautiful camp in this region. Just absolutely stunning region around here. So let's get stuck into this Root Hog Track and see where we end up. For the most part, the actual Root Hog track itself turned out to be very easy. There are no deep ruts or challenging obstacles. In fact, the track can mostly be done in two-wheel drive, besides of course the last section. Down the bottom there was a very sandy section right on the banks of the Turon River. I almost got bogged. There's a nice open space where you could camp as well. The scenery driving down was absolutely incredible as you descend down a few steep sections of the dirt road. The road does narrow, but it doesn't see much traffic, so as long as you're careful, you should be alright. Now, it's important to note I had never done this track before, neither had anyone else in the convoy. I had heard stories about it and seen videos, although none recently, so I really didn't have much of an idea as to what would be down the other end awaiting us. Now, although we were prepared, Dad didn't have a snorkel or a lift on the Ranger, and Jake, even though he had a snorkel, was running stock suspension on his Navara. It was a topic of discussion among us to suss out the water level before completing the crossing due to these reasons. As said previously, we are much more about the safe approach to off-roading, and we weren't about to risk our four-wheel drives for the sake of our ego if the water level was too high. Now, the Root Hog track actually has a little bit of a rough history. As said previously, when the famous Bridle Track was deemed impassable, an alternative route was created, that being the Root Hog Crossing. But the alternative track has been surrounded in controversy. The track ran through a private property, and lock gates were installed along the track to stop access at some point. The gates were ripped down, and property was damaged by people with shortages in cognitive ability. The relationships between four-wheel drivers and landowners soured, which benefited nobody, and it also caused extra problems. It turned out that the track somehow became misaligned over the years and was running through a private paddock. The track was eventually fixed up, but somebody ended up digging a huge trench in the Macquarie River crossing, making it impassable, damn dangerous, and very illegal, which made the crossing closed. The crossing had eventually now been repaired, and after being assessed by authorities, it is officially open to traffic once again. So what an awesome little track that little Root Hog track was. Fairly easy, and now we're down the bottom of it where the river crossing is. So it's called the Root Hog Crossing for a reason. And yeah, so this is it just here. I'll give you a look in a minute. I'm stuck in this soft sand, so I come down to have a look and stopped in this really soft sand and almost got stuck. So here it is behind us we're looking at. Fairly long river crossing there, so yeah, fingers crossed everything goes good here. It looks to have a fairly consistent bottom. I'm not sure how deep it would be, but yeah, I'm going to walk this one to see where the track actually goes, because if you can see across there, it's just a tree, and I don't think that's where we're supposed to go. So yep, give it a walk and see how it is. So after walking this track, the water is about up to me waist there, so I think we're going to concede defeat on this Root Hog track. It's too deep to go across there, I think, especially for Dad without a snorkel. So we've got our backup spot in mind that we better get cracking to before we lose the sun. So we'll still go into Hill End in the morning and show you guys around there. But we won't be going in this way, just simply because we don't want to risk getting stuck in the middle of this river. It's very unfortunate, but there's just too much water flowing through here. So yeah, maybe another time, but not this time. So we better get cracking, because we have a fair ways to get around to this other spot, but it'll still be well worth it. Well, as unfortunate as it is, I think that we made the right choice to not cross the river at this given time. As said before, the Root Hog Crossing crosses one of the deepest spots in the Turon River, partly thanks to someone digging a huge trench in the river many years ago to stop four-wheel drivers from coming down. Even though it has been repaired, it's still considerably deep, and especially after such a wet start to summer this year, there was a lot of water flowing. Fear not though, as we still had a few hours of sunlight left and the spot we were heading to was still in the hill end area. There were also a couple of river crossings to get to this spot, although they were not as deep as this one. The only downside being now we would just have to go around the long way, back into Bathurst, up to Sofala and then out towards Hill End and this fantastic spot that we had lined up for tonight. So a little bit unfortunate that we couldn't complete the Root Hog track and make it onto the Bridle Track. A little bit upsetting, but you know, it is what it is. I guess common sense prevails in these situations, and there was no way that Dad was going to make it through there in the Ranger without a snorkel, and so we just thought to play it safe. Thankfully though, we will still do Hill End tomorrow for you guys and show you around Hill End, and then make our merry way and continue on with the trip the way that we had it planned. I've got just the spot in mind for tonight. Even though it's a little bit around, I think it'll be well worth the drive. So now we're heading back out to tonight's camp spot. We're back on the road, and I have set the Power Plus throttle controller to the 2.9 setting for this journey, and that is because there are a fair few hills in this region, and I just want to have the right amount of power to get up those hills, that little bit more than I normally would, so that should do me well, and I should have plenty of power to get up the hills heading into this region. So we got on with it quickly. The Root Hog track isn't all that long, so it didn't take us too long to get back onto the tarmac. We will be heading back into Bathurst and then up towards Sofala, passing through some historic little country towns along the way. The drive from Bathurst to Sofala wasn't that long either, which was really playing in our favour as we were now in the late afternoon. Travelling through this region, the scenery is still absolutely amazing and the road swerves up and down through the hills. It wasn't long before we were heading through Wattle Flat and nearing Sofala. Wattle Flat is a small settlement with a population of a mere 290 people. Back in the day, gold was mined through here, although today there is a general store that sells fuel. It's also the last fuel until you get into Mudgee. Once passing through Wattle Flat though, it was a short steam ahead and then we arrived in Sofala. Sofala is a historic settlement nestled right on the Turon River, only a mere 50 kilometres north of Bathurst. Sofala looks more like a western movie set than a town. The village of Sofala once stretched over 16 kilometres along the banks of the mighty Turon River. Many fortune-seeking gold miners settled the town, around 10,000 at its peak. Today it is far less than that, and Sofala stands with an old-world charm with relics from its distant past still present today. Sofala still attracts many people whom enjoy fossicking and seeking gold over 70 years after the last gold mine closed. It can officially boast a reputation of being Australia's longest standing gold town. Once coming into Sofala, we took a turn and headed down towards Hill End. Tonight's spot is an all too familiar spot for those regular subscribers. A small spot hidden down off the road somewhere between Sofala and Hill End. That's right, we're talking about none other than Little Wallaby Rocks. This spot was one of my all-time favourites for many reasons. This was the spot that I had met Tyler Thompson randomly in the bush in. It was also the location of Jared and I's last camping trip in the area, and this time we were about to create some more awesome memories down in this spot. It's almost impossible to miss Little Wallaby Rocks once you come across the heritage-listed Wallaby Rocks Bridge. It's hard not to stop and admire it. The original Allen Truss Bridge was built in the late 1800s to aid transportation of mining equipment between the settlements of Sofala and Hill End. Before the bridge's construction, moving mining equipment was incredibly expensive due to transporters having to do river crossings like we would in our four-wheel drives, but instead with loads of valuables and far less suited equipment. The Wallaby Rocks Bridge was added to the New South Wales Heritage Register in 2000 and still stands to this day. Now we'd arrived down at Little Wallaby Rocks, it was time to assess where we would camp. We didn't know whether we were going to camp in the main area or cross the river to find a camp. So here we are in that backup camp spot, all too familiar spot down here in Little Wallaby Rocks. Absolutely beautiful place. I've been down here many times. It's a spot that I met Tyler Thompson in too. So it is pretty packed down here, and we're thinking that maybe we're going to go across the river. Not sure yet. We're going to have a little look around the main area, but there's a fair few people with big camps set up, and they're making a fair bit of noise even right now. So we're thinking maybe we'll head across the river. Not sure though. So yep, we'll just give it a little bit of a suss, and then we'll update you guys on what we're going to do. Well, it was pretty clear that it was too packed for us up the top, so we braved it across the river and then down the track a little bit until we found an awesome spot. So we did a little bit of adventuring across the river here and found ourselves a nice secluded spot away from everyone. There were just way too many big groups of people up the top, and even over this side there are a few, so snagged ourselves this beautiful little spot down by the Turon River here. Nice deep section there to do some swimming in. Really looking forward to this. This is probably one of the better spots that we've found. So let's set up and then we'll show you guys around. This awesome little spot that we had snagged was a little ways down the Wallaby Rocks track. It required 2 river crossings to get to, although the second one, as you'll see in the morning, was not as deep as the first. This spot was nestled right on a nice deep section of the river where it was perfect to swim in. This track down behind Little Wallaby Rocks is often referred to as the Bridge to Bridge track, linking Wallaby Rocks Bridge with Coles Bridge, which is further down towards Bathurst. It is for no beginner though, and it requires more river crossings that you can count on your hands, and some of them are over 100 metres long, and they aren't shallow either. A few years ago during the drought, this track may have been doable solo, but now you wouldn't go near it without some floats and a support vehicle. Now, we were absolutely stoked with this spot. It would be our second camp along the Turon River, and we were as happy as ever with it. This looked like one of the better spots along the track as well. There was plenty of room for us to all set up and be comfortable. I was so happy with how the Pajero set up so quickly. By the time I was set up, the others were still rolling out the swags. This shows that even though you may not need all the fancy gear, it certainly does help. Well, we were now going to crack on with dinner and sit around for the evening and enjoy the tranquility of the Turon River in this beautiful spot. Tomorrow we will be taking our first northern steps into Hilland for some exploration, then into Mudgee for fuel and out towards the Goulburn River somewhere. We would also be having Lockie join us in the big patrol, which we were all excited for. So we're set up now in this beautiful spot down here by the Turon River. I just went for a swim. I feel really refreshed actually, that nice deep section there. I guess we're pretty lucky that we got this spot. So most of the river is actually usually pretty shallow, and just that nice area there to swim was really cool. So we're going to get on with dinner as usual and then just chill around for a little while. Seems to be a nice amount of wood around to have a fire, so looking forward to that again. And then we'll just chill out in this spot. As for the plans tomorrow, unsure really at this point. We've got 2 options, and we'll decide on that in the morning. So for dinner tonight, we're just going to be going back to the dish that we did on the first night, that biryani style dish with the chicken mixed in there with the rice. That was really nice. We all kind of liked that, and it was easy and quick, so I'm going to go with that tonight. Then tomorrow, after we've used up all of the rest of the chicken, the pre-marinated chicken, then we'll head on to the steaks. That should be good. So yeah, let's get into this dinner. We're really keen for it, and then get the fire going. Well, now we'd settled in and had dinner, it was time for us to sit back and enjoy the beautiful scenery of the bush for the rest of the night and plan for tomorrow. This will also wrap up the third part of this adventure. In next week's episode, we'll be heading north towards the Goulburn River and Barrington Tops area. So if you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe to keep up to date with this series, as we still have a lot of adventuring to do this trip. And of course, be sure to check out the previous parts that are also all full of adventure. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next week for part 4.